Okay.
And I want to get you caught up. But a couple of the things we were discussing last time was there's no evidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where's the evidence? This doesn't show any evidence, or maybe what the police think. They do have like her eulogy that she read
Okay.
at their funeral, which people think is not genuine. And also there are like, whenever she was trying to get bail, her stepfather's sister, I think, and her stepfather's son from like a previous marriage, who's much older and married with his own family.
Right.
They're both dead set against it and they hate her.
Yeah.
But before we play that, that doesn't sway me.
Yeah, I mean, that's just people's opinions.
Well, right, but like, yeah, I think my ex-mother-in-law would probably say horrible things about me too if, my ex-husband, when we were still married, if he died because that woman just hated my guts.
Yeah, a lot of times people get in tragic situations and they just cling to an idea or like decide that somebody has done something wrong, and it's hard to convince them otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I have a couple videos to play. The first one is the video I just described. I think that might be all we cover today on her, but let me get it queued up.
Yeah, I really feel bad for this person right now. It's a bad situation to be in.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that she's not guilty because I don't know. I'm just saying nothing I have seen. Here we go.
The defendant is charged with the brutal murders of my brother, Jamie, and my sister-in-law while they were lying in their bed. Shot multiple times, including both shot in the head.
Emotions ran high today inside a Georgia courtroom in the case of Sarah Grace Patrick, the teen's accused of killing her mom and stepdad. She was in tears as a judge weighed whether she should be granted bond. Not only is she accused of double murder, law enforcement say she then posted about the case for months on social media until her arrest last month. They say she was putting up a front that she was trying to find the person responsible when in reality it was her. I was inside the courtroom today. I'll bring you the most impactful moments, and I'll tell you what the judge said swayed his decision the most. This is a special edition of On the Case presented by Law and Crime. From Carrollton, Georgia, I'm Chris Stewart.
So something they're not going to explain in this, and I just want to kind of get out there, is when she had that bond hearing, it sounds like her extended family and anyone that would support her lives in Alabama, right? And this takes place in Georgia, but it's like right on the border.
Yeah.
So it's technically not far, but it's in another state. So I don't think she has any support system in the state.
We're here in Carroll County, Georgia. It's a little more than an hour west of Atlanta, and we were just inside the courtroom for the bond hearing for Sarah Grace Patrick. This is a case that we have been covering since her arrest in July for allegedly shooting and killing her mom and her stepdad as they were sleeping inside their home here in Carrollton, which isn't far from where I'm standing right now. This all happened back on February 20th. She was arrested in early July. She has been in jail since then. She maintains her innocence. Her grandfather and her biological father maintain her innocence. But then on the other side, today we heard testimony from people related to her stepdad who say she is guilty. Now, today wasn't about guilt or innocence. Today was about whether or not she should be granted bond. And the hearing that went on for an hour and a half was incredibly emotional.
I not only lost my brother, but also my sister-in-law in the most horrific way imaginable.
That was just part of the testimony of Kimberly Bowling today. She is the sister of James Brock, who's one of the victims in this story. I'll get to her full testimony in a moment, and I'll tell you what made it so impactful on what happened today in court. This was the moment here that Sarah Grace Patrick entered the courtroom today. This was the first time that we saw her for ourselves since her arrest. We saw her smile as she entered the courtroom. She looked to several people who came to support her during this bond hearing. That includes her dad and her grandfather. They have both told us they believe this teenager is innocent of the double murder that she's accused of committing. But as this hearing set in, we saw Sarah Grace Patrick become incredibly emotional as a total of 9 witnesses spoke about whether she should be granted bond. She's been held at the Carroll County Jail since July 9th. Today, her attorney said that she's been in solitary confinement because she's so young, and that, according to the sheriff's office, has created a safety concern about her going into the general population. Now, before I get into the arguments that we heard today, let me remind you of what happened inside this house, according to sheriff's deputies in Carrollton, Georgia, back on February 20th. Detectives say that it was Sarah Grace Patrick, then 16 years old, who shot and killed her mom, Kristen, and her stepdad, Jamie, as they lay in their bed in the middle of the night. Law enforcement say that Sarah Grace's half-sister, who was just 5, was the one who came upon her parents shot dead. Detectives say that little girl then went and alerted Sarah Grace, who called 911. This case went unsolved for more than 4 months. During that period of time, Sarah Grace Patrick posted on social media, primarily TikTok, about how she was mourning the loss of James and Kristen. She also reached out to content creators on TikTok, encouraging them to cover this case. But then on July 9th, the bombshell.
I mean, I think like her reaching out to content creators and going on podcasts probably pissed the police off.
Yeah, that sounds like what could be going on.
From the Carroll County Sheriff's Office.
Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault.
Law enforcement said at the time of the arrest, they had a, quote, mountain of evidence against Sarah Grace Patrick. But at the time of this recording, we still are waiting for more specifics on what that mountain is made of. Sarah Grace not only posted on social media about the case before her arrest, she also spoke at the funeral for James and Kristen at their church.
Never take a hug or anyone or anything for granted and love with all things I've been like they did. And lastly, I'm not taking people for granted. I want to thank my family, also known as my catchup fam, my grandparents, my siblings, Jamie, Johnny, Jaden, JoJo, Trent, Tristan, Ashley, and Jesse for helping me get through my worst nightmare. And last but not least, I want to thank Tasha, Bree, Nate, Lane, Kimberly Hayes, Kim Bowling, Katie, and most of all, my father, Angie, and Ben for making such a big difference. Jamie and Mama would have thanked y'all too. I love you guys, and so do they. I'm sorry.
Law enforcement and James Brock's family told us they found that speech to be scripted and inauthentic. They also.
What do you mean scripted? I mean, of
She's
course
a
she wrote it
17-year-old
down.
girl.
She's a kid and she wrote it down.
She hasn't even taken public speaking classes in college yet.
I know. Did that sound scripted to you?
It sounded like somebody who was nervous and was reading something they wrote in a really awkward time.
Yeah, it's also really inappropriate during a eulogy to thank people. But what base of comparison does this girl have? None.
No, she's never given a eulogy before.
Yeah.
I found it odd, considering she said sorry at the end of it. But we also spoke to Sarah Grace Patrick.
Some people just say I'm sorry all the time.
She was also blubbering and having a hard time getting through it. I don't see anything odd about the whole thing.
Listen, you say you're sorry all the time.
Yeah. I don't see anything odd about that at all.
Patrick's grandfather and her biological dad, both of which are in her corner, and they tell us they had no issue with that speech. They didn't feel that it was a red flag. Much of this case has already played out in the court of public opinion, specifically on social media, since Sarah Grace Patrick's arrest. Today, the judge at this hearing began by saying he recognizes the public interest. He recognizes us, the media, who were in the room to cover the case, but he said what happens in the courtroom is about the law. Sarah Grace Patrick's defense attorney tried to paint the teenager as a girl who loves her family and loves her faith. The first witness, her pastor. He is also the pastor of the church where Jamie and Kristen went to. He says that he regularly speaks and prays with Sarah Grace Patrick from jail.
Are the substance of those conversations about do you believe me or anything like that?
2 things she calls us. It's been 2 things every time. One is to thank me for everything, and it's particularly for her dad. He's just engaged. He's growing. He's really growing his relationship with God. I can never make sense of tragedies like this. It's terrible what everybody's been through, but watching Beauty for Ashes and seeing DJ love the Lord and engage in his faith is beautiful. So she'll call me first. He came to the altar a couple of times. We've been able to pray with him recently. So there's victories that she'll call and thank me and then ask me to pray for her. And she's actually reading some books that were recommended to her that changed my mother's life. My mother was a pretty rough addict, and those books vicariously through her changed mine. And so she's reading them, and so she'll talk to me about that. So it's 3 things: prayer, thankfulness, and what she's reading.
That pastor said if Patrick were to be granted bond, the church would look after her. They were trying to establish that she would have a place to go outside of jail. Before I get back to this episode of On the Case, I need to take a moment and pause and talk about something really important. because as a dad, nothing is more important to me than my kid's future. A friend of Sarah Grace Patrick. Patrick was at her house in Alabama when detectives called back in July telling her that she was going to be charged with these murders. Jensen wrote the judge a witness impact statement and she read it to the court.
Dear Judge Hightower, my name is Carrie Jensen and I'm writing this letter on behalf of Sarah Grace. I first met Sarah when she was in 7th grade. She and my daughter attended the same middle school and her stepsister played softball.
I'm glad she has people wearing her name on shirts.
Yeah, but I think, man, that must be rough having your stepfather's family just think you're a murderer.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to see this mountain of evidence. Let's
With
go.
my daughter. Our families quickly grew close. Sarah would spend weekends at our house and my daughter Caitlin would do the same with theirs. We've shared camping trips together and weekends at West Point, creating strong bonds between our families. They have been best friends since. At the time, Donald and Kristen were in the middle of a custody battle. When I first met Sarah, she was a little shy, very sweet, kind, and humble. She was cautious around new people, but soon she warmed up to me and once told me I had a motherly presence that made her feel safe. As our relationship grew, she began to open up to me about her past and experiences with Kristen and James. One thing she said that has always stayed with me was, no matter what they've done, I will always forgive them and love them because deep down, I know that's not who they truly are. This statement showed the depth of Sarah's heart. She truly believes in forgiveness and has always extended the same grace to others. She once told me that holding grudges isn't what God wants for us, and I've carried that wisdom with me ever since. While staying at our house, Sarah was full of life, happy, upbeat, and in many ways a typical teenager. But there were also signs of trauma she endured. She would often apologize for things she never had to. Like she would asking.
Again, she says she's sorry a lot, like you do.
Yes, as she said in the eulogy, doesn't mean that.
For food, taking a shower, or using the bathroom. It was heartbreaking. Despite that, she remained incredibly kind, respectful, and especially patient with my son, who is on the autism spectrum and is the same age as Sarah. She was fiercely protective of him and everyone she cared about. Sarah has a huge heart. She is loving, protective, and deeply rooted in her faith. She has always expressed a strong, She has always expressed a strong desire to work in radiology field and has never been afraid of hard work. Hurting someone simply isn't in her nature or character. Over the years, I have held her through moments of deep pain and tears, and through it all, her love to her family, especially her siblings, Jaylee and Donnie, has remained unwavering. She would never do anything to harm them.
We do know that James and Kristen Brock had a history of substance abuse issues, but this is the first testimony that we've heard about alleged, quote, trauma in the home while Sarah Grace was living with James and Kristen. Now, we didn't hear a lot today about evidence, particularly in this case. It was really about the character of Sarah Grace Patrick. There were several people in the courtroom today who wore shirts in support of Sarah Grace. You see the one that Jensen's wearing. It said, "I stand with Sarah Grace," and it had a Bible verse on it. There were 6 total witnesses that were called by the defense who spoke positively about Sarah Grace Patrick, who said that they would be responsible for Sarah Grace Patrick if she were to be granted bond. But then the prosecution brought up family members of James Brock, specifically Kimberly Bowling. I felt this was the most emotional part of today's hearing. Her witness impact statement, here it is.
Jamie is my brother, my only brother I have left, my only sibling I have had.
Like the judge said, you take your time. What do you think the judge needs to know about what's going on with you and your family?
I have something to read. Your Honor, my name is Kim Bowling, and I'm Jamie's sister. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Since this tragic day, my brother Jamie and his wife Kristen were taken from us. I have become their voice as they no longer had one. I would like to share how this brutal tragedy has affected me. I not only lost my brother, but also my sister-in-law in the most horrific way imaginable. Every night I lay awake, unable to sleep, haunted by the thought of what my brother Jamie and Kristen might have experienced in those final moments. With the possibility that they were awake when the defendant entered their room with a gun, and I imagine their terror in their final breaths. The defendant is charged with the brutal murders of my brother, Jamie, and my sister-in-law while they were lying in their bed. Shot multiple times, including both shot in the head. She was
Mr. Pierce, can you put that? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
my 5-year-old niece was then woke up to find their parents lifeless. The trauma this innocent child will carry for the rest of her life is unfathomable. And what makes this even more heartbreaking is that her sister loved the defendant. She looked up to her, and for reasons I will never understand, the defendant caused such imaginable pain. And I'm so thankful that Jaylee's life was spared.
She said she looked up to her, so I'm guessing that this 5-year-old is in this person's custody now,
Yeah.
being told that her sister killed her parents.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity in this woman's statement. It's like the defendant did this, and it's like, where? Okay, what's the evidence?
With all of this in mind, I am deeply concerned about Jaylee's safety should the defendant be released on bond.
Why?
This woman thinks she's a psychopath.
Okay, if she wanted the little girl to be unalived and she did this, wouldn't it have happened when all the other ones were unalived?
Okay, these people were shot in the head each and then shot elsewhere each. That kid, I couldn't see that kid being able to hold a gun well enough to shoot someone in the head. Period.
They never found a gun either. They scrubbed the house for one multiple times.
And the 5-year-old finds the kid. The 5-year-old finds the parents dead and goes and gets the defendant. So
who calls 911?
So she just shot them, hid the gun perfectly, cleaned up all of any mess that she would have had on her person as a result of shooting a handgun, and went back in her room all nonchalantly so that the 5-year-old could conveniently come in and find her. None of this makes any sense.
No.
Amy and Kristen had turned their lives around. They were actively involved in church, had found happiness, and were living a great life. They did not deserve what happened to them. I ask you, please consider the following factors when deciding whether to grant a bond. My first concern is flight risk. The defendant has financial resources provided by the immediate family, which would enable her to flee. Her family maintains that she is innocent, and given her manipulative behavior, I believe she may attempt to flee. Second concern is witness intimidation. The defendant has shown a pattern of intimidation towards family members and others with knowledge of the crime. I fear that if she's released, she will continue this behavior to silence anyone who could testify against her. My third concern is evidence. The brutality of these murders is not in dispute. My family and I have seen the death certificates, and although we are not aware of exactly how many shots were fired, we do know that there were multiple gunshots to both Jamie and Kristen. Personal safety. If the defendant can kill her own parents in such a violent manner, I fear for my own safety and the safety of my family and friends. The possibility that she could harm us is terrifying.
I don't think she wants anything to do with you, lady.
This lady is out of her mind.
And I urge you to consider this in your decision.
This is like a personal grudge. I hated that little snot-nosed brat. I mean,
yeah, this is not.
She has never, ever, ever liked her. I guarantee it. And the stepdad probably didn't either. He was just stuck with her.
I wouldn't go that far.
And I support our justice system and the hard work of Carroll County Sheriff's Office and investigators. And most importantly, I'm a Christian who believes in Jesus Christ. My prayer is that justice will be served for Jamie and Kristen, and their bond will be denied for the defendant, as she has shown that she is capable of extreme violence and manipulation. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak and share my concerns.
as Kimberly was giving her statement, I kept an eye on Sarah Grace Patrick. And from what I could see, it was as emotional as Sarah Grace Patrick was throughout the entire hearing today. At one point near the end, it appeared that Sarah Grace Patrick was shaking her head as if to say no. Now, state prosecutors also called Tristan Brock, who is Jamie's son and Sarah Grace Patrick's stepbrother.
I'm here to share with the court how my life has been affected by this heinous crime. Your Honor, it feels like I'm living in a nightmare. I'm depressed. I struggle to sleep. I can't even walk through my own living room without seeing his urn and be reminded of everything all over again. I miss my father deeply. I wish I could see him again. I wish he could have met his grandson. And above all, I wish I could just hear his voice one more time. But instead now, what I have is an urn that represents memories we made and the countless memories that will never be. As a little boy, I believed my dad was the strongest Superman, and no matter what happened, he would always be there. But that belief, that dream, is now a shattered illusion. And instead of healing, I find myself reliving the shock, pain, and confusion every single day. I haven't even been able to begin to grieve. Before you make your decision regarding bond, I respectfully ask that you consider several critical factors. First and foremost, I believe the defendant poses a serious flight risk. Her family has significant financial resources and a wide support network, both of which could easily be used to help her evade law enforcement if she were released. These are not speculative concerns. They are grounded in the reality of her background and the means available to her. Additionally, based on her past behavior and what I know of her personally, I do not believe she has the integrity or accountability required to face the consequences of her actions. She has shown a willingness to avoid responsibility, and in my opinion, she would absolutely attempt to flee rather than stand trial if given the opportunity. In addition to the risk of flight, I am deeply concerned for the safety of my family. The gruesome and violent details of this case have shown me that the defendant has a disturbing lack of regard for human life. If someone is capable of what happened here, then I cannot ignore the real possibility that she could pose a threat to those of us left behind.
The final witness was a family friend of the Brocks who read a letter that she says James Brock's 12-year-old son wrote. Here it is.
My name is Jaden Brock, and I'm 12 years old. I wanted to talk today because my dad and stepmom was shot and killed. I miss him every day. My dad was my hero and the person I looked up to the most. We did everything together. He helped me with school, and he always made me laugh, and we joked around a lot.
This lady has beautiful hair.
This whole thing drives me nuts.
Why?
Because the one side of the family, the stepfather's side of the family is convinced that this girl is guilty, and they have presented no evidence whatsoever. Their bond hearing readings sound like victim impact statements after someone's convicted. Like,
I don't disagree with you on that.
She's innocent until proven guilty, and they're sitting there saying the defendant is a flight risk because she's irresponsible. And it's like,
yeah,
what?
And her family has money.
Well, his justification being that she's shown that she doesn't have any accountability, and it's like in your private life where like she doesn't do her chores or something. She's a 17-year-old girl.
Well, she's a 17-year-old girl, but it sounds like she, was having sex and smoking weed, and
they haven't said any of that yet. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know it's going to get to that. But I know it's going to get to that potentially, but I don't think there's anything from, I don't know. Maybe it's just my impression of the situation, but it seems like those people are deeply upset about that man being murdered. I don't blame them. And they don't like this girl, and therefore they've convinced themselves, or the police have convinced them, that she's guilty. And they're not walking into this with with an open mind for evidence. They're just like, she did it. And it just bothers me. Such the opposite of how the court system is supposed to work. They're supposed to prove that she did it.
Can't judge them too harshly.
No, I don't judge them too harshly because of the trauma they're going through. But if anything, I feel like what maybe you said earlier about the police manipulating this is more likely.
So the rest of it was just like the 12-year-old brother's statement. We don't really need to hear it, but her lawyer is really good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think her
Sounds
lawyer.
like she's gonna need it.
Oh, what a good lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like she has a really good team behind her. It's a shame she couldn't get bail and assist in her own defense, which is nearly impossible in jail. But
Yeah.
you know,
So they denied her bond.
yep.
She never got to that.
Yeah, she has been in jail ever since.
That's too bad.
So now we got